So my question again was, how does this happen to us? How do we end up in these situations that really aren't ours? And a friend of mine this week sent me an experiment that was called the still face experiment. It was a baby with the baby's mother. And the baby was doing her oohing and eyeing and goo-goo and gaga and moving around. And the mother was looking at the baby and engaging with the baby and also going goo-goo, gaga, and oh, you're so cute. And the baby was pointing places and the mother would look and the mother was engaging with the baby. And then for the experiment, they have the mother turn her head and the mother turns back to the baby and has a still face and is not engaging with the baby. And the baby starts moving around and oohing and googing and gaga, and the mother just has a still face. And the baby starts pointing to the things that it's used to connecting with the mother, and the mother has a still face. And the baby starts to move around rather frantically, just trying to get physical attention, and the mother has a still face. And pretty soon the baby starts crying loudly, and you can tell the baby is really upset. And at that point, the mother starts engaging again, and very quickly the baby calms down. But as I watched that film, I felt that such sadness, because I'm wondering, and I wonder if it's been the case for you all, that when you said goo goo gaga, did someone say goo goo gaga back to you? When you had an idea, did someone say, oh gosh, what a great idea. Let me help you develop that idea. When you were excited about something, did someone say, oh, that's wonderful, you're part of the healing of the world. Let me help you be excited about that. When you had something that you thought was different than the people around you, did someone say, oh, that's great, or did someone say, that's the dumbest thing I ever heard? Were we seen in our life? Were we encouraged in our life? That's why when so many people walk into a Unity Church and discover that you don't have to change for a God out there, that God is within you and all around you, and you are okay. You always have been. And your ideas and your passion are how you get to be the important being that you are on the planet and make this world work. That you doing and you following that inspiration that's within you is your divine inheritance. And that's why so many people cry when they come into a Unity Church for the first time. It's like, oh, it was inside me all the time. It was just the last place I looked. I've spent my whole life trying to do what everybody else wanted me to do, and that's why this life, this long and winding road, has felt more long than anything else. So where in your life do you feel encouraged? And the people that didn't encourage you and the people that had a still face when you were talking about whatever it was that was yours to do, they had people that looked at them with a still face. No one's at fault, but we must be around people that encourage us and love us and see us for who we are. And when you have an idea about something that maybe doesn't fit in the world of your family or your school or your religion, that we encourage you to go on that path. See, many of us grew up in systems that didn't support us in being the original and unique person we are. They supported us in staying part of the system. They didn't support us in living the life that we were born to live. So this long and winding road, where are you heading? Where are you heading? I'd like to acknowledge two people that have been a big part of my life, that when we talk about the long and winding road and staying connected to your passionate purpose, long is one of the words in that. And I have two very good friends of mine that are right here that are 93, I believe, this year. And I'd like to ask Phoebe Brown and Graham Porter, as they can, to rise for a moment. Can you do that? And let's give them a hand. Anybody over 90, please stand. Because you know what? You've been hanging in there. I love you. And I know these two never ever give up, and that they have actually stayed on this long and winding road, and they know where they're heading. And they've been such an inspiration in my life, so thank you. And I think it's so cute, you guys are the same age, and you just sit right here across from one another. I'm always like, say happy birthday to each other. They're so precious. So the next part of this road is, how do we handle the curves and the turns of life? You know, the road to Hana has 620 curves. And when you get up to one of those curves, you can't see around the other edge. You don't know what's going to come up. But every time you have to slow down, and you have to navigate well, and when you get to that other side of that curve, there is always on the road a new waterfall, some new flowers, some new plants. Thank God eventually there's a restroom. But as you keep navigating this road, it gets more and more beautiful. But how do we do with the curves and the turns of our lives? Even when you get on this road that you know where you're heading and it's your passionate purpose and you feel supported and people are loving you through this thing, there's still these moments where we feel very doubtful and when we're unclear and when we can't see around the curve. So how do you treat yourself in that moment? Are you kind to yourself? Are you loving with yourself? Do you go out and get a lot of support? Or you do what a lot of us do sometimes. This never works out. Life is hard. People have been mean to me. My father always told me this wouldn't work. I knew the economics were bad. I knew life is hard. This never works out for me. Do you take out something and beat yourself up? Or do you let yourself be kind and loving to yourself? As I was reflecting on this talk and all the various weird props I'd use along the way, I saw the Oprah magazine this month, that said, the easy how to do it way to find your life purpose. I'm like, really? It's easy and 1, 2, 3 step? Not at all. You know, and the stories in this magazine were all about how it isn't easy, but people have chosen to live their life purpose. So when you're going through these curves, these adversities of life, how do you use the adversity to be something that you never, ever, ever give up, as Winston Churchill reminded us? There's a lady named Patricia Cline that was one of the stories in the book and in the magazine. And her mother had been diagnosed with Alzheimer's. And so Patricia decided to take a break from this job that she really didn't like so much and spend time with her mother while her mother was going through the last years of her life. And one of the things that Patricia and her mother had done that was very comforting to Patricia and to her mother was they used to bake pies. And her mother had this pie tin that wasn't around at the time, so Patricia used muffin tins. And she decided to make pies in these muffin tins, and she was making little pies. And she recognized as her mother started to lose her voice and couldn't really talk, that she would talk to her about how she was making these pies. And she could see her mother start to relax. And not only was her mother relaxing, she was really having fun making these pies. And so her mother eventually did make her transition, and as a tribute to her mother, and also the tribute to her joy, she decided to make these pies. And she decided every night she was going to make a dozen of these little bitty pies. And she spent the next year making a dozen pies a night. And after her 1,200th pie, she perfected her buttercream crust recipe for her little pies and went to her county fair, and these pies completely sold out. And she started this business of making these pies that she started calling iPies. And then she went on to San Francisco, and now she's at a pastry chef program out in San Francisco, all from navigating the curve in her life of her mother not being well and engaging in something that was a childhood memory for her that she loved. And as it grew, and as her passion grew, and as she knew where she was heading and navigating the curves, this whole experience was born.